we engage with the Apparel Group India for a few of their businesses in a technology consulting framework. And the chapter that we'll be able to cover today is more customer experience. And our engagement's recent, less than a year. Uh, when we met with Abhishek, I think the one thing that stood out was customer obsession. And that's why we are talking about the track of customer experience via technology as a route. But, I'd like to start by, introducing Abhishek into the discussion to just give us a brief about the apparel group and, what's the overall motivation and objectives at this point.
So I think Apparel Group in India, we operate around 12 brands. Some of the major ones are Aldo, Charles & Keith, Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret, which is the latest addition to the portfolio. Then we've got certain value brands, R&B, Daiso. Into the apparel space, we are with Beverly Hills Polo Club, and then beauty is with Inglot. Also, we in the FMB space, we have Tim Hortons as a business. So these are some of the brands that we operate. I think when we met the GreenHonchos team less around 7-8 months back, it was more to discuss a pain point that we had in the business. I think COVID sort of led all of us to quickly develop a e-com business, and we grew so fast. So, just to give a perspective, we were less than 1%. Our e-com business was less than 1% in 2019, while last year we closed almost 30% of our total business as e-com, and that base continues as we have brick and mortar coming back in full strength this year. So while we developed the business very quickly, we figured out there were a lot of pain points that were there from a customer experience perspective. And that's where we got GreenHonchos in to really look at our brand platforms and, figure out solutions on many aspects.
Excellent. Thanks. I just take that a little further. I think from that customer obsession perspective, the brands have great following globally. And one of the key things was to match that experience for a global consumer and also for an omni-channel and an omnipresent consumer. The experience that the offline stores were able to offer to its customers, I think Abhishek and the team were extremely critical about those journeys not getting compromised in any way. So as GreenHonchos, we are a headless commerce stack. It doesn't need to be a particular product. That's the nature of composable commerce. They already were on the Salesforce Commerce Cloud. We'd come in, the Bath and Body Works was under implementation. They needed a review and a governance framework. There need to be measurability, a monitoring framework as well. So that is where we came in with an ascent framework that we had. Just brief tenets about it. In technology, pretty much everything is transparent and measurable, especially in e-commerce. There are metrics to the entire framework. In fact, our framework asks a few questions as well. Some of them are on the screen as we speak. Is the technology optimized and smooth enough for running? Is it optimized for consumer experience, for smooth operations? How do we measure it on an ongoing, repeatable basis? And what is the next call to action from a technology standpoint? So the monitoring framework that we had was about a 16-point, 14-point, framework. It was across the website stability, across the operations checklists. One of the gentlemen asked about, from a customer experience perspective, it's not just, there are many actually leakage points. It starts right at outside of the website at the entry funnel point. It could start from an ad or from a social media communication or from any such attribution. Then it lands at the website. That is the first part, which is even before a consumer has a purchase intent. He has a glance intent. And then from an add to cart to a cart to conversion, there are a lot of monitoring frameworks out there. Also, for a global brand, I think the UI UX is very tightly governed by global standards. Now that cannot be compromised at all. We've had the experience working with almost all Reliance International brands as well, so we were able to bring those best practices of global brands, uh, bring in that rigor of UI and UX. Also, the last mile journey is very tailored in India from a logistics and a payments perspective. I think if I remember correctly, Abhishek, you were mentioning at the start that those were areas and the checkout wasn't as optimized.
Yeah, so I mean, we wanted the site to be very functional from a customer perspective. So simpler checkout processes, better UI, UX, you know, loading times, and the whole sort of flow of the site and the experience part from a customer perspective was critical to what we were trying to achieve.
Sure. So yeah, that's where we started off with Bath and Body Works, moved on to Victoria's Secret, have a very similar methodology of consulting framework, managing the implementation, even with another implementation partner. Where we have our weekly cadences, we have our monitoring frameworks and dashboards, both real time as well as weekly and monthly cadences in place that have helped maintain the consistency and measure that over time. So yeah, that's our time. I think we finish it off in a quick 7-8 minutes. Anything more to add and open to questions?
I'll probably just add one more thing. As retailers, you know, we know what we want on the site, but sometimes we don't have the talent in house to define those parameters from a tech perspective. And I think that's as were building up our business, we realized, you know, getting clear definitions were very important, and putting a structured framework around that was very important. And that's where I think the GreenHonchos team came in and really helped us out.
Good, thanks. So, any questions, anyone? We can open it up to you.
So I'd want to understand, what outcomes are we talking about over here?
Sure. I'd like to take that up. I think one of the objective challenges we had and faced was there was a deficiency in, as a metric, there was bounce rate. As a metric, there was load time. Uh, that was one of them. And the other was the cart to conversion. Uh, Obviously, the load time was more, and I'll talk quickly about the solves on that. We realized that at the entry funnel itself, first of all, GA4 was not, or Google Analytics updated wasn't tracking it effectively. Therefore, the wrong measures itself were there in place. It was showing a bounce rate in single digits, which clearly was the events weren't firing. So what couldn't get measured correctly couldn't get improved. We came in and first fixed that as a technology intervention with MarTech. And that resulted in us being able to, within month one itself, really figure out what the benchmarks were, and we went in with a UI UX mild revamp of the homepage. Obviously, there were brand guidelines to adhere to, but there was video loading up. They were not the most efficient methods of being able to show in, especially a mobile responsive methodology. I think that really elevated the entry funnel itself from a consumer experience. From an objective standpoint, that was one that we picked up within the first month itself. Uh, we had identified cart to conversion and checkout to be a bit mangled from a user experience perspective, especially since consumers were using multiple formats of payments in India, including UPI, and the way it was configured in a box with Salesforce. At that time, we were working with a implementation partner. We completely, I would say, modified, because in India it is an OTP-based checkout, even on SFCC. From that journey to the messaging, to the notifications, to the speed of that checkout, to the way the addresses pre-filled were, showing up, that entire optimization I would call as fairly objective, because we were able to see one metric going up there, which was the cart to conversion. So at the entry funnel, there was bounce rate and page speed insights from a load on web and mobile. That was very objective because we had also earlier done a study with PwC that even the first contentful paint is even a 1 second has about a 15% increment or decrement in your conversion rate. So we were able to see that as an exit funnel too.
Follow up. What did that lead to? So you've explained those tactical KPIs that you all measure,
Sure,
but
sure.
what was the business outcome?
So say customer experience in terms was the same question. So I think customer experience number one, which was a business problem. Clearly, if the metrics from a competitor standpoint or a general landscape were slightly a notch below, the idea was let's improve customer experience. While customer experience may be a slightly subjective matter, but clearly there is objectivity when it comes to revenue and conversion. I think we did see, if I may say, and you can back that up, about a 12 to 14% increase in the add to cart rate, which as a percentage improved the business and the top line by that much on the same spend. Does that answer
My
the question?
question was similar is to Abhishek is that what are the business KPIs or specific performance you expected from the GreenHonchos when you engaged them, and over a period of say what was the time, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, what was the shift?
So when we sort of going through the changes, we were almost 1% conversion, and our target was to take it to 1.5. I think
Sorry,
today-
my question is not an operating KPI. What was the, I'm saying you are a business person. So at an end you will look for a sales or a margin or XYZ. So what was two business KPIs which you felt that needed to shift? And what was the shift after the engagement?
So we were looking at almost a 30% growth into the business, through this process. And that was supposed to be driven through a higher conversion on the site, as well as at different stages of funnel where was the business customers getting lost out. In that journey, I think we're almost there now, before we started with that initiative. And pretty much on track to that number now.
So, and from a timeline perspective, this journey and the measurement has been about 6 months now.
Okay.
Navin, you had to work with a partner who was also implementing Salesforce. How easy or difficult was it? Because when two partners starts working on the same thing and objectives could be different for both of them, how easy or difficult is it to manage that?
So I'll first take a deep breath on that. So yes, I think that was one of the key challenges. Actually, it was more a surrogate challenge. I wish Abhishek had warned me enough before we'd signed up. We were introduced to the challenge of the third-party implementation team slightly later. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's on a lighter note. We knew what we had signed up for. We were well in connect with the Bangalore-based team. I guess folks on Salesforce know exactly what we're talking about. There are challenges. We actually sat on the brand side. There can't be 3 teams in this. There are only 2 teams. We actually took on the entire project management framework, governance, and implementation. So we're actually running the project management sprints from the brand end. We actually even sat at the brand's office often, or the brand sat at our office, and we were one team. So yes, it's a tough role because obviously there could be bandwidth issues. There could be, and that's where one of our key jobs was actually the SRS and the BRDs, documenting the details functionality wise. So when, let's say, the sprint was being delayed by a week or 2 weeks, the project governance frame body like he and me would have had to step in. It happens. It's part of what we've signed up for. But yes, it keeps things honest because one of the issues, to be honest, even from the enabler ecosystem was, I think Abhishek was very fair at that and saying, you know what, we are business folks. We might not be giving the right BRD or the SRSs and having the right review timeline KPIs with the implementation partner. So if we have more technology competence and understanding of that project management cycle from our end, maybe the third party implementation partner could do better. So while it starts off a bit greasy, but it can work out like a well-oiled machinery. It might actually help the third party implementation partner deliver better. So we have reached a stage of that. Any, did you think that's a fair?
No, I think there were only two sides, and us and GreenHonchos were on one side, as far as because they were representing our interest into the whole conversation. So, we don't have the competence in house to actually project manage some of the tech issues that come up into the process. And having somebody who's advising us and guiding us into that process is very important.
Good. I think we're done. If no more questions, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.